Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. We're going to be covering Varuna today from very simple builds. Something that somebody had just started the game, went, oh, that's a cool looking frame, uh, to abusing each of her mechanics. Um, she's a very fun frame to play, definitely has an interesting play style, and a way to deal with each of her abilities, though admittedly, her 4 is the worst. But you can definitely get it into the millions. But it's got a big problem, and that's the AoE doesn't scale. Um, the dot doesn't do much. It doesn't scale like the initial hit. You can get the initial hit into the millions, but the AoE uh, just doesn't have much of anything. So, food for thought. 4 is going to be the helmet ability for those that have played a bit. Let's start with the very basic. You started playing the game, your MR2, 3, went, oh, this is cool, bought it. This is what you're looking at. Obviously, if you had flawed mods, you're going to equip them. Health, armor, equilibrium, and flow are the most important for you guys. Equilibrium, even if you have a flawed one, like a cracked one, um, just go ahead and put it in anyway. It is super effective on Voruna. Um, and she's more of a health tank than anything. So steel, fiber, vitality, equilibrium are musts. So for the newer player. So anyway, that's that build. If you're brand new, it's a really comfy build. Keeps you alive. And the aura can be whatever you want. Really, I think she's initially a D polarity. Probably have a physique mod. So whatever you got, just equip it in. There you go. All right. Um, so the next one is going to be basically that with a helminth. Now we're immediately going to jump into arcanes because everybody else, I'm going to assume you've done the star chart, probably in Steel Path. You got some prime mods. The only mod that I would see as like a maybe would be Prime Sure-Footed. This build focuses pretty heavily around her 1 and getting status up. This build is a very comfy build, but it focuses heavily on spreading statuses and creating sort of a circle around where you initially cast. So you're going to cast twice. And if you do notice, I should probably go over the shards. The new guys didn't need this. 2 casting speed, a single 10 ability strength, that'll matter later, and 2 energy shards. Pretty straightforward. Her energy pool is garbage, 525. Feels usable. It's definitely better. It's definitely not like a 600 or something like that, but 525 is solid. 400 does feel restrictive at times, especially when you're trying to recast her 2. A lot of times to RNG the statuses the first time, it feels very oppressive. But once you get going and you get it, it's gravy, right? But this is a melee focus build for a melee focus frame. It's about spreading status because we are going to be min-maxing these builds slightly. But the 21 second duration, almost 22. Crit multiplier is 2.2. Speed and everything else is the same. Buff duration, if you kill, is 10.75, though we aren't really going to be taking advantage of that too much. Mult augmented and arcane strike. You're a steamroller. You're going to get in, pop your damage, and you're going to get out. And I'll show you the play style associated with this. Was it these? Yeah. The Sarofang. This is the build that I've been using. Depends on how many form you want to put in it. I put 7 in it. I'm surprised. One of them was to change over Temple Royale. I didn't do an aura form on this. The big ones are going to be Condition Overload, Blood Rush, The faction mod is going to be super important. Crit damage and as much crit chance as you can fit on it to take advantage of the one bonus to crit multiplier. I am modded for heat for a specific reason, which will become later, or I'll talk about later. I did not put range on here, but if you want to put range, it goes here. So pretty basic, and it's up to you. It's a feel thing. I did not run range on this, and there's a reason for it, and I'll show you in a second. The range on this, her 2, when you're gonna go in, you're gonna try to nuke the one guy that you apply the statuses to, and then you're gonna kill everybody that has the statuses that gets applied to it. So everything in a 12.5 meter range, you just destroy. Or 12.25 meter range. And I'll show you the playstyle that I've been using that's associated with this. Need more bad guys than that. And I would say, just out of like personal preference, get used to using the hold F. If you are in melee, right, and you hold F, there you go, you see the little flash. When I jump, or jump and right click to glide, it'll keep the melee in my hand. It's important because if you're trying to get your damage off, that little hop that your 1 does will cause you to swap over to your rifle. So just on this frame, it's a little bit more important. But, alright, one more time. It even has rolling guard on it. It's a very safe build. And it's even kind of useful for like disruptions. I have a disruption build though. So this feels like, to me, like the gold standard of what the other builds have to beat. I did put, and I didn't use it that time, but I did put warcry on there. So that's the sort of the play style that I've gotten comfortable with her, is you're invisible, you find a group of baddies, you mark the center guy 1 or 2 times, maybe 3, which is why the energy pool is so important. Because if you try to get all 30, or not all 30, all 15 statuses that this can roll, it's going to require at least 3 taps of your 2. If you don't double up on any of them. So hit it 2 or 3 times, come out of stealth swinging, everything in a 12 meter radius dies. So that's the sort of the play style that I've gotten comfortable with. You'll blow stuff up very, very regularly. And warcry being another duration ability, you just end up having 3 and 4 on all the time. Gives you the movement speed increase, it gives you a little bit of armor. Not that that matters at higher levels. It's got the slow for the enemies, and obviously the attack speed increase, which is the most important part. So pretty basic. How this weapon interacts with it is you gain the 100% status chance and the crit damage. So you can get oranges. You saw me hit them a couple times. Sacrificial steel, it's kind of up to you. I like it. I like seeing the extra damage, but You could obviously go Gladiator Might. The issue is with Molten Impact, there's a reason this is on there, and it has an interaction with another build. I'll come back to this mod, but there's a reason Heat's on here. So Sacrificial Steel is a flex slot. You could obviously mod for more attack speed, but if you notice, I did not put Weeping Wounds on, because there's a way to keep the statuses going. And it's very, very spammy, but there's a way to keep the statuses going, so you essentially, unless you're moving a lot in a tile set, there's going to be statuses all the time. So there's a way to roll them. But anyway, so let's go to the other build. This was a build dealing with the mecha set, which I'm sure a lot of you saw the other video. This is the build that I was using. I have since min-maxed this a little bit on another build. But this is the build that I was using. The farthest I got for it is we were farming the new survival nodes. 330 steel path is what this got up to, so that's as much as I can vouch for it so far. And basically the issue that happened is kind of what is supposed to happen. Adaptation just crapped out on me. I should have had rolling guard, even though you don't need the status cleanse because of the 2. The iframes are a lifesaver, because even with 2 yellow casting speed shards, the lag, the casting speed of 1, you don't turn invisible until the jump is completed, right? And that was getting me killed. So I have since swapped over to rolling guard if I plan on doing a longer run, and that has fixed a ton of my issues, as it should have. Yeah, hot takes only, rolling guard's better than adaptation at higher levels. But the mecha set we'll come back to. Very, very powerful set. But this build is very comfy. Same as the other one. Nothing's really a surprise. Energy isn't an issue. I didn't even use a helminth because I wanted to see how far Voruna on her own could get. So 145 range. I have the 10 power strength red shard. So if you have 1, I would highly recommend throwing it in, because there's another build that needs it, and it ends up needing that shard. So very comfy, maxed equilibrium. Archon Vitality. It definitely interacts with the 2, but I'm having trouble telling exactly what the scaling is, but it's definitely a bonus. So it is what it is, and plus I had the capacity for it, so I just left it on, right? But if you don't want to deal with it, also Prime Continuity. I mean, if you really want to, you could put Archon Continuity on. If you're newer to the game and Pharaoh hasn't been very kind to you, or you don't enjoy farming plat and you don't want to spend money on the game, shout out to the free-to-play players. Archon Continuity is available anytime. Prime Continuity is a Pharaoh item, or you have to buy it off somebody for plat. I mean, you can farm plat, but this costs you the premium currency, or Pharaoh has to show up with it. This is available after doing some annoying call missions. So for the difference of 1 capacity, I mean, it's available. The frame can definitely use it on the 2. So like it can definitely use it. But it only gives you 1 stack. It doesn't give you the 10 stacks. So it's technically a buff, maybe if you don't roll corrosive when you hit the 2, but you get like 10 stacks of heat, toxin, and electricity. Your damage will go up quicker. I mean, it's definitely an improvement, but you don't need it though. But it's definitely there. So food for thought. These are interchangeable. I had the 1 capacity, so it's basically the same thing. Intensify, I was not able to get the trigger on this frame. Even with doing like besides doing like a helminth or something, I wasn't able to trigger it using anything besides like a helminth ability. So, food for thought. Yeah, very comfy build. This one I can certify personally that I did 330. It was what, an hour and 10 minutes on the new survival node. So not that good, but it's something. It had no trouble staying up. Anyway, disruption build. Very, very fast, very zippy. We focused more on strength. Shield gating is intact. Just from, you're going to need brief respite and at least one auger mod. Because brief respite gives you 150, so that gives you 75. I have 2, just for a little bit of easy use, so I'm not swapping out builds. So I could swap to just regular stretch here. Right, so pretty simple. 50 plus 150%. So 150% is 75. That's what our Decaying Dragon keyed shield is. So you need 1 auger mod. So whatever your tolerance is, if you like running, I find that if you don't have, if you're not like far enough over, it doesn't feel like it triggers as easily as if you're like a little bit more over. So I run 2, for whatever reason, it makes that shield gate significantly stronger. Maybe it's like a packet issue. But if you're running, like, say for this, there's 75, right? If you get like 76 over shields, it feels like sometimes it doesn't trigger. But if you get to like 90, it like clearly triggers, right? So maybe there's like a rounding issue, but personal preference, you do not need auger reach. You can go stretch. And there's enough capacity on this. Part of the reason why auger reach came down is so I could fit Umbral Intensify on. And this is where we needed the 10 capacity from, because I did not run the strength arcane from the Zeramin on here. In order to get to 200%, Umbral Intensify and Transient Fortitude get you to 199, and the easiest way to get that without doing running the stacking arcane or costing a mod slot is now, because we have the shards, you can just throw it on and there you go, 200 with 2 mods and you get full strip. So this is a disruption build. Very comfy rolling guard, equilibrium, prime flow, prime continuity. It's not a very in-depth build because frankly the frame just doesn't need it. And again, with the prime continuity, if you got the 1 capacity and you feel like you can use it, by all means. But this is more about not necessarily the range, even though I did put a little bit of range on, because obviously when you're doing the disruption, you have to kill stuff as it's like to get the keys to drop. But mostly it's about getting the 1 going as fast as possible. You want duration so you can run around. You want the crit multiplier, obviously, so you can kill the Demolist as fast as possible. But because of the fact that we have the guaranteed status chance, and the status comes from the 2, and we have guaranteed armor strip. If you're doing Grenier, you're going to mod a weapon for as much viral as humanly possible, with no weeping. You're just going to throw, it's going to be base damage, crit damage, crit chance, and as much attack speed and viral as you can fit on it, and faction damage. Because you're going to get the force proc from slash, you're going to get a guaranteed status, 100% status, so you're always going to be triggering something else. It's a different way to mod, and to be honest, I kind of dig it. So this really isn't about mob clearing too much. If you want more mob clearing, you can lower down the Umbral Intensify, but it won't give you the 100% strip. And to be honest, because of how low some of her abilities are, but it's right at the cusp of having to have brief respite. You can actually get away, because right now it's at 80, right? And 150% is 75. If you run these two auger mods, plus 2 auger mods on the pistol, you don't need brief respite. And you can run corrosive projection and regular intensify here, and it'll give you clearly enough power strength. And to be honest, 82, yeah, you could run corrosive projection, and it would be a perfect strip. So 82, 18 off corrosive projection, so 165 would put you at like the perfect strength, right? And that would free up a mod slot, but it would lower your crit multiplier. So to each their own. That's the alternative on this. But I like the brief respite build. If somebody else on the squad's running brief respite, I could see swapping out to this. I just wanted the attacks or the strength more. So personal taste. This one's pretty basic. I know I'm skipping over these a lot more than I normally do, but the one build's going to be something I got to explain. I did make a sort of, not necessarily a meme build, and I'll show this. Somebody was like, "Oh, I hope she was a weapon platform." So I tried. And I'll show this one. Vigorous swap, not a ton of strength. It's still basically her normal setup, but it's holster amp, vigorous swap. With some stuff that still allows her to function. Obviously, we're not caring about range too much. Equilibrium is going to be more health orbs this time, obviously. But this is really less sweaty, and plus it gives you a bunch of duration, which is nice. And I'll show this. Let's get some baddies. Easy enough. You can still use your obviously make sure to have your 3 up. I didn't that time. But it's a very efficient build. Lots of orbs because of the frame. But the best part is, I've lovingly called this build Thumper. So as you run around, it's got the knockdown arcane on it, which does count toward condition overload, and your condition overload. It's a deadhead build because of the headshot bullet attractor. And yeah, the eruption, 100% chance to knock down nearby enemies. And because of equilibrium, you can spam as much as you want. So as you're running around with your pistol, you can jump around with the fangs and constantly boost the raw damage on your pistol. It's not fantastic, but it's something. So, food for thought. It gets pretty annoying. I would say turn the audio channel down because eruption triggers a lot. But because of the headshots, you get energy orbs. Enemies killed by melee attacks get the health orbs. So if you're running out, you can safely jump out. And I think this is a 30-meter range. So if you're picking up energy orbs, right? Sorry, if you're dropping energy orbs, so you need to spam. But when you pick them up, it'll constantly CC the enemies. So even with this, it's still very spam heavy. But you're getting the energy back because of it. So it keeps you pretty safe. It CCs everything. Obviously, it's going to be an issue with Eximus. But at least this is something. If you want to do Rolling Guard, I think running the Scourge and the Knell is enough power for most people. Unless you're doing like a cap run. The Knell Scourge combo is incredibly potent. So you would need to take off, what, Narrow-Minded? And put... Pardon. Rolling Guard. Actually, you could just put Rolling Guard here, right? So, there's an alternative. Alright. So, enough of that. Let's talk about the one that I'm sure most of you came here to see. And I'll do chapters on this. And so, this is... What's that thing from the Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Where the guy's like talking about like the conspiracy theory. That's what I feel like I'm about to be. Okay. So we're gonna get rid of the junk. Actually, this works also, but it tends to one-shot them. Hold on. Something a little weaker. Okay, this one. Just because, so before we get ahead of ourselves, this is the build. Crit chance, crit damage Riven, minus damage to Corpus. Faction damage, that's going to be very important. Amalgam Organ Shatter for the heavy attack, because that's going to matter. Crit Gladiator Might for crit damage. We're running Heat. So we have the 60-60 mod. And Molten Impact. Condition Overload, obviously, because of this frame. And Blood Rush. And... Dexterity. And... Yeah, double Dexterity. Because we're going to need to be able to keep up our melee combo. One of the ways you can do that, I'm not doing that because I like to spam and constantly jump in with this frame. But if you want to take Naramon, I would completely understand. Honestly, Naramon is pretty justified even with as much duration as we have, which I think it's sitting at 20 right now. So let's reset these guys and we're going to talk about this. And we're actually, hold on. Okay, so the mecha set, it's a mecha set build. We are max range, -1 mod. This is not a shield gate build. We are surviving purely on our 1. If you look, our crit multiplier is 1x. It's not about dealing damage with the melee. We're using the melee as a primer for the mecha set. So range... had space for Archon continuity, so I threw it on there. Technically, flow works, but it's whatever. If you don't have prime flow, but you can get Archon flow, there, we have cold, but so there's no reason not to use it. If you have it and you have the capacity, it's a little bit of energy, but we're not really going to need it. So how this works is the mecha set is actually kind of complicated. It gives you this 150 plus 150% extra damage against a marked enemy. This and the combination of how the 2 works allow you to keep your status scaling, like the things on the status that boost the damage of it, indefinitely. So you end up with a really bad problem of killing shit too quick. So we fixed that by using Sickening Pulse as an intermediate to sustain the procs. And obviously we helminth over the 4, because even though you can get the damage up, you have to sacrifice everything else, so it's garbage. It's out of here. Sickening Pulse, we're using it for its status refresh. And the reason why we have Sickening Pulse is so we can get away with using the low power strength. Mecha Pulse, Mecha Empowered. Let me go over what the set is, because this isn't a commonly used set. Mecha Empowered, this is a pet set that you get from Voruna. 150 extra damage against marked enemies. This is an additional multiplier that occurs after faction damage. But it's against one target. Potentially two, because I have the entire set on. Companions mark a target every 15 seconds for 12 seconds. This can potentially stack twice. Not on the same target, but you will see two enemies with the target. Because of how hectic everything is, the gas damage proc completely covers this. You can barely see it. So you kind of have to play like it doesn't matter. Mecha Pulse is the strongest single mod source for armor, but it's conditional. Killing a marked enemy grants 60% armor for 20 seconds for each enemy within 30 meters. It is 60 armor. I know it says percent, but it's flat armor. So if you kill 10 enemies, it's 600 armor. And I'll point out the buff when we kill stuff. It's the largest single source of armor in the game, in terms of one particular mod. There's the other health conversion. That's on a bad companion kill, is what this needs to stack up to. Like, this will get to what? 1350? Right? At 3 stacks is 1350. That's a bad trigger for this. So if you're running solo, this is better than health conversion, but you have to be running the right pet. So it's sort of a trade-off. But this does benefit your companion with linked armor. So the little bastard gets tanky. So you have these two, and then let's go over to the pet. I am running the Pharaoh Prime. There's a reason. This is a... I'm actually not sure what this counts as. It's in the same category as a Kubro, but it's a Predacite. Like, the Vulpophiles are supposed to be foxes. Like, is this still a dog? Anyway. He has a couple interesting, like, unique items. Volatile Parasite in combat spits up a maggot every 15 seconds. The maggot latches onto the nearest enemy and provokes other enemies within 40 meters to attack them. It then explodes, dealing viral damage within 10 meters. I don't care about the viral damage. What I care is that this taunts enemies with Overguard. That's the big deal. If this attaches to an enemy that doesn't have Overguard, any other enemy nearby is going to stop what it's doing and it's going to attack it. This is honestly going to be providing a substantial amount of CC. But the issue has always been keeping them alive. So this is more of a invisibility frame thing. Good thing we are. The other one is because we have the mod spot. And it's a precept mod, right? The precept mods. And we needed to put something here. Can't have another fetch, right? Transmit an endoparasite to an enemy within 30 meters. Tentacles spawn from it. Clinging to enemies within 5 meters, slowing them as they move further away from the parasite, and dealing 20 viral damage a second over 5 seconds. Again, I don't care about the viral. What I care is that if this hits an enemy in like a hallway, it essentially blocks the enemies from walking past, or at least makes it so it's difficult for them to walk past. Because it'll spit onto them, an enemy, and then it'll spawn tentacles for stuff nearby. And as they try to walk, they sort of move slower and slower. It's not a ton of CC, but it is something. And since a lot of our damage is going to be coming from gas, it's not exactly a loss because the gas stacks will then be able to hit more easily, right? Because there's no limit on the number of enemies that this can attach to. There's a limit to how many enemies you can fit within 5 meters, right? Because like I've seen like this apply on like the index and the guy that spawns the drones. This grabbed everything, right? So it is what it is, and it's obviously kind of funny when it's an acolyte, right? Because then it forces everything to just stand there, and the acolyte gets CC'd, but there's a bunch of enemies around him. Um, but it'll grab the drones if it triggers on the right enemy. So food for thought. Actually, I should have that one up there. There we go. The mecha set. Let's do the mecha set. What we came here for. Status link, status duration. I don't care. It's about completing the bonus. Mecha recharge, shield recharge. Not exactly a bad stat. It's got to have something on it, right? Companion, and it's about completing the set. We got synth fiber, synth deconstruct. The viral AoE will trigger it. Endoparasitic vector will trigger it. But the pet isn't a super good user of the synth set. It certainly can. There's even anabolic pollination. Not too sure about that one. It's really hard to see how this triggers, because technically this is an additional layer of toxin damage. But the wiki used to say that this was an additional faction damage specifically to toxin, but it doesn't look like it applies like that anymore. There might have been a stealth fix on this. But I remember this would be one of the pets that you would take against like corpus level caps. And it would allow the toxin damage to get out of control. But it looks like it's applying flat. So this is the build that I'm using. I tried anabolic pollination and it works pretty well. Also allows you to swap between heat and gas on the melee. So you can start off early with heat, because that's what you want to get going as soon as possible. And then later you can buff the gas for the dots. And it just got a little difficult to like guarantee the procs, because heat's way more important. Because that one, because of heat inherit, it's way easier to get that going and get your damage up. I don't care about gas too much, because it scales anyway, because we're using sickening pulse, so it just gets multiplied by 10. Bring whatever primary you want, Proboscis, Cernos, anything that groups, whatever your favorite anything is. You can potentially double dip on the heat inherit. I'm just bringing the plagues because that's what I've been running. It's the new thing, right? Most important is honestly dexterity. So let's go back to the Silva and Aegis. This is a heat-only weapon. It doesn't technically need to be this, but it makes the job way easier. You mod the 60-60, you mod the 90 heat, and you mod for faction. And it's really all you need. The faction is honestly pretty important. Because one of the things that isn't really talked about, it's mentioned in a way that doesn't lead you to come to the understanding that you need to have for this. Mecha Empowered applies faction mods once. What it needs to say is that you get the faction bonus on the initial build-up, the extra 150 damage against a marked enemy, but on the explosion, the faction damage is not carried over. What this also means is you can reapply your faction damage to the next enemy, which makes this way more interesting. Because within 2 explosions, you can be hitting for millions on the heat. But just to make this significantly easier to show, I'm going to use the Silva and Aegis. Obviously, the two most important stats on a melee weapon for this build is crit damage, crit chance, and base damage. And it's basically the same build. You're just looking for something with a Riven that has an insane like faction damage to whatever you're going against, and then you're going to run the Riven with the faction damage, regular primed faction, the 60/60 for the heat, and the 90 mod. The game doesn't seem to like pistols though. I've tried it with the new core and it wasn't having it. I don't know what that's about, but maybe that was like a simulacrum bug or something like that. But let's take a look at the damage. It gets pretty silly. Oh, I already got him up. Okay. Hold on. You cannot one-shot them. Okay, hold on. See, one of the problems with this... The, 2... And I guess that's what I was having... Okay, they triggered. One of the issues that I noticed is that if... And I'm kind of glad it happened right there. It was something I was going to have to explain later. One of the issues is that... if you one-shot something, literally one-tap it, the status doesn't technically get applied because it died to the base damage. You can't one-shot it. You have to hit it, and then the status has to be visible, and the status deal damage. Not necessarily that specific status deal damage, but it has to register. If you just one-shot something, it doesn't carry over. Alright, so we got heat. Again. Good. There we go. Alright, 7, 14, 67k. And it escalates from there. That's part of the reason why I have such low power strength. Is the damage escalates very quickly. And the way to get it to jump even faster, we'll have to wait on this guy. Not that. Here we go. There we go. Is hit the marked target. And this is all just straight multipliers. We haven't gotten into heavy attacks yet. And I'm actually going to have to do Steel Path to explain it, because I haven't found anything in the simulacrum that doesn't get one shot from a heavy attack. But stack up. You got to have heat on it. Okay. I did not have heat on the thing. Oh, there we go. And even without the mecha set, it's pretty easy to do. I mean, the damage that we're getting now is an okay starting point. No. 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 There we go. And even without the mecha set bonus, because we didn't even hit that guy, the damage is still pretty substantial. So let's talk about the other thing. And why we have Sickening Pulse explicitly. Obviously, the bonus to how it interacts with heat and gas, and also refreshing timers on the other dots. Anything that's a combo element gets refreshed right back up to 10. Slash gains like a slash tick, whatever. The big deal is that it keeps the stacks on and allows you to sort of pause what's going on, and especially the double ups, because one of the things that I didn't find, and it was one of the things I was having to test, is in order to get this carryover to work. Okay, so that's a heat. Oh, come on. I lost my heat, he died. And it's very finicky, but once you get it, it pops. You have to get heat on the hit. Like, there's no heat on that, so I can't use it. Heat, there we go. But then you one-shot, and that was a simple auto. There we go. Okay. So this one will spread. You have to have the heat originally on there. And somebody in the YouTube comment section actually brought that up. And it's right. But there's also the second part. You can't one-tap something. Which is a shame, because with this frame, condition overload is very, very jacked up right now. Like, normally you are not operating with this many elements. And if it's not strong enough, you just double tap. Let it spread. But the other reason for the mecha set is because, as finicky as that is, that guy's not. So it allows you to reset it until you finally get the triggered right. Because it's very finicky how it triggers with the 2, but you can carry it over. I've gotten it to happen a bunch of times, but I don't like the RNG. The mecha set's there to fix the problem. And obviously the bonus damage is nice. Yeah, there's no issue with the mecha set. But it feels like the 2 is not proccing properly. Because one of the things that works occasionally... Okay, it carried over. It went behind me. But you can actually re-trigger, like, the heat procs. If you have multiple targets that you've marked in an area with your 2, and a heat proc from one passes to another one, it will then re-trigger the damage from the first one. But the only way to trigger it in the first spot is to have heat already on it. And that's where the first couple of hits are so important. Like, this one got heat. We'll bop it. Nice and easy. Wasn't even a heavy attack, because the heavy attack jacks it up even more. But right now we've just been using, like, no combo, not a whole lot of crit damage. The crit damage that we've been getting has basically been coming from the 1. Right? Nice and easy. 154k AoE. And that's on a 2. So because of the range, we're hitting most of them. Nice and easy. There was a target in there that was a mecha set target. Even though we couldn't see it because of the clouds, the heat hit it, got jacked up by the aura mod, and then that re-triggered and killed the other ones that weren't within range. So it creates this multiple layer of pulses. But it's basically heat inherit is the easiest one. And this is the easiest weapon that I found to trigger it on. Is the silva and aegis, obviously because it's heat only, makes it pretty simple, right? But to be honest, like, the bigger the initial hit is, might want to upgrade this one soon. It's only 25% heat. The bigger the initial hit is, the higher the damage is on the dot. So this one does insane damage. And I'll show you this one, but it's like an additional small bit of RNG. The silva and aegis fixes the entire issue completely. Right, and that's a slash dot. 71k and 41k on a heat. Yeah, half mil slash tick. Okay. So the bigger the initial hit, the faster the dot goes up. And that one was 600k because I have 2 combo now. Obviously, this is the one I would suggest using because of the tenant passive. Frees up the rest of your build from running dex mods. So you're basically going to build up your combo one time, put it away when you need to restack your combo. If you do, or if you want to like manage it or move it to a different location, you pull it out, literally bop something, and then go back invisible. Because you're going to hit for millions, right? And I guess because people like big damage. Hold on. Oh, good thing that happened. Okay, so one other thing. And I think it's part of a bug. If you heavy attack, right? You heavy attack. If they're airborne, sometimes the effect doesn't spread. No. That was a one hit. Okay, hold on. Come on. I mean, that was 4.3, right? On a 2x yellow. Anyway, you get the idea. The damage goes up from there. With the Tenic exec using this build, I think I got up to like 108 million. Which ain't bad, but it ain't damage cap either. But having all the statuses makes a lot of these weapons get super out of control in terms of damage. And the Riven doesn't hurt. Crit damage, attack speed, range. And I don't care about status chance, so it's the perfect negative for this frame. But the stronger initial damage, the stronger the crit is, crit damage. You don't need attack speed with this because you're getting your quote-unquote range from the dot being spread. And the mecha-empowered aura and the mecha-empowered set is, or the mecha set, is to guarantee the spread. And also, it allows you, where normally, like you saw the trouble that I was having, adding elements, I was having to wait. and RNG it, and we'll wait until the guy gets marked. It's okay, buddy. You mark when you want. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna mark and just auto, and that's my AOE dot. It forces it onto the dot and allows me to force add an element because the empowered set and it will piggyback together. So instead of having to like, now that one was pretty simple. Okay. See, slash tick. It's pretty nice. But that's how the dot works. You got to trigger it. The empowered sets to give you an extra layer of reinforcement on the dots. And I guess for this I should probably do a little bit of play on it. Because it's definitely a different play style. You're not really killing stuff that much. Like, personally, you're letting the dots do the work. ASL. It's that time again. We'll do Tavuni because of the good spawn rates. Hopefully.
Scans show Grenier are harvesting Kuba nearby. Set off the alarms to draw them out, then steal their Kuba catalysts.
That's good enough.
Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach Kuba catalysts to begin harvesting.
Oh, they died. And whenever you notice one of those mecha enemies, just make sure to bop them.
Delivered a life support capsule to the area. Activating it will buy you more time. Prepare for life support.
I mean, it's got decent damage, but it's more of a slower AoE play style. But it's... I've gotten great joy out of it. And once you get the two casting speed shards, the animation gets fast enough that it doesn't feel like I need shield gating. The status immunity feels like it's enough. Whoop. Oh wait, it's violence, Lamau. Alright, give me a second. You gotta be prepared for violence. But yeah, even with the... I guess I gotta go to the next one now, right? Oh, another thing I should probably mention. A super safe option. And it's a weapon that everybody has. Is if you want to do... oh, here. An even safer option. You can run like a finisher build. With the Skia Jati is definitely an option. The slash is never, or the character is never visible. And also make sure to run the on the Parazon mod for the finisher. You want to run the 100% chance for a health orb. So every time I do a finisher, I'm guaranteed to get a bit of a refresh. So if you're in need of like energy for whatever reason, like if you get drained or something because you're on a different passive, definitely a quick way to get something done. Because the kill still counts, right? For the 3. So you can get a, what is it, an energy orb? Alright, here we go. Alright, good enough. There we go. Yes, sorry about that kill on Malice. Or not kill on Malice, kill from Torment. I was not paying attention as much as I should have. I even read what the Acolyte was and wasn't like, oh, I should watch out for that. But you see how the build operates. It takes a while because everything keeps dying, so you can't really stack it up. As you get further into the mission, you have to cast the Expedited Suffering more. And you want to use a slightly smaller room, because eventually the mecha set will overpower the enemy scaling. Like, especially if you start out with like 100k damage, right? It would only need to scale up to like 400k before it's like a Sarin Spore. Like a maxed one. And that's like literally 3 jumps. So you can get to maxed out level Sarin Spore in like 4 jumps. If you do it right. And that would be with the heat ticks. But then you have the additional scaling if you're having trouble. So you can get to a higher initial starting. So say you lose it later, then you would start incorporating heavy attacks. So you would charge up your combo, try to reset it, and you would use a heavy attack on it. With the 1, you would come out of your 1 with a heavy attack, and you would force hit for a slash and heat tick on like the tankiest enemy you can find. And that would provide you with your either higher level appropriate dot, or you could do it on, say, something like a corrupted unit that's like in the middle of being corrupted in like a Fisher mission, and it would give you a nuke, like instant nuke. So food for thought. This is a very sweaty build, but it's pretty comfy. I just thought it was a really interesting alternative play style that actually synergized super well with the mecha set. It is very, very clouded in terms of like what it does to the screen. So you're gonna have to play with your settings, because I didn't have my gas readjusted because I was playing on my alt and a lot of my settings reset, and it was my fault. So you're gonna have to play with what the dots look like. And as nice as it is to see the damage, I would say honestly turn the damage numbers off. Because there's so many dots going on, the game already doesn't show you all of them. Right? Because like it's not going to show you 10 ticks of gas on everything. But with all of the dots coming around, it's honestly a refreshing play style. It's a lot slower. You're not running through blowing stuff up and then having to re-stealth, and it's not so sweaty. So for a pretty relaxing like alternative play style, I thought this frame kind of nailed it. Like this is a unique play style. There's nothing else like this, even with Saren, because like she needs help stealthing. This frame just stealths and just sort of wanders around. So it's pretty nice. And again, no shield gate. Except for Torment handing me my ass. Pretty slick. Didn't have much trouble staying alive. So there you go. There's the weird build. It's definitely unique. I've even seen people talk about Mecha Empowered, or like the Empowered mech set, and then they use it wrong. Like this has always been the Mecha set play style, right? You have the initial nuke, but it's always about maintaining the dots. But one of the things about it is that it removes the faction damage component and applies it to the base hit as if it were like a flat dot, which means you can reapply dots once the explosion happens. So if you really, really, really want to set up like a really nasty nuke, you would use like 2 Trinities. And the Mecha set is a great way to do it. You would run like stealth Trinities with the Mecha set. And you would literally just wander around finding Mecha targeted enemies. And you would Well of Life them. And use the iframes to save the nuke from the first one. So you would Well of Life 2 enemies, dump your damage into the first one, trigger it when the other Well of Life enemy that's a mecha target is nearby, and then you would save that one until the next one showed up, and then you would Well of Life it and then nuke the second one for the third one. And you continually compound it, and you build up a nuke that's like a 30-meter damage cap. So this was sort of like a meme build from the back in the day that's actually got like a decent bit of life to it. Like it wasn't bad, especially for how basic this is. So there's the weird build. Not a whole lot of math. Just know the fact this is an additional multiplier outside of the faction damage. So this is a plus 150 or times 2.5, however you want to do it. Plus 150% or times 2.5, whatever makes sense in your head, after faction damage is calculated. And it's on anything, right? So dots are super powerful, abilities get amped, but it can also re-trigger on another mecha target, which will then boost it again by 150% and then nuke. So it's an interesting take. It is not very fast-paced. So this is for like a different type of survival where you don't want to like spam through. And obviously anything lower level, you can just do whatever you want. But this one is a good alternative for a very, very melee-centered one, because the 4 just doesn't cut it. You can get the damage up, but the AoE doesn't scale. The AoE doesn't scale, so it's useless. Honestly, if they buffed the 3 into something insane, it probably still wouldn't be useful, because the drain is so damn high. I get it's the signature quote-unquote ultimate. It looks cool as hell. But even if they allowed like dot damage to count toward the multiplier, so you could at least get stacks that way, and it continuously increased based on the dots. So say if you got like, I don't even think that would save this, and it would be an insane damage number. So it's just the dots don't scale. Maybe they'll fix that. And the 2 is super good. You can use it to great effect. Condition Overload obviously loves this. But it is a little glitchy when trying to re-trigger it and transfer buffs. Because like it's worked before. It worked in the mission. It wasn't super obvious. Like it was applying correctly. But it's harder to test. And maybe it's something that's going to get patched. Hopefully in the good way. But anyway, I hope this helps anybody that was thinking about this frame. There is a ton of potential with this frame. So just to go over the abilities, strength and duration for the 3. It's fine cost-wise. If you really want to run Streamline, you're more than welcome to. The 2 is your shield gate and primer. And provided you apply the correct statuses when they're on there, can be a pretty nasty nuke. The spread's pretty okay, but you're supposed to be casting this a lot. You cast it once or twice. You have your 3 up, which gives you health and energy orbs. You cast this once or twice. You expend a decent chunk of energy. You blow up 5 or 6 enemies. And then you re-stealth and leave with full energy. So it's very, very bursty. Your health pool's supposed to be jumping around a lot with this. And the 4 is just kind of there. Like even the lethal attacks double the damage of Varuna's remaining charges. That isn't true. It goes from 1, 3... What is it? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So it increases the damage additively by 2 times what you started at. So it goes 7... Wait, hold on. Oh, I did +2. Okay, so it's 7 plus 14. So it starts at 7, it goes to 14, 21, 35, 49, and then 63. Give or take. There's more numbers there, but that's basically what it is. I mean, obviously the final number is decent, right? 63k. But it doesn't apply to the AoE. And you can buff it even more by priming it with the fangs, right? But, yeah, it is kind of what it is. But anyway, this video has been long enough. Thank you for being patient. The 2 took a while to figure it out in terms of like how it applies. The rest of the abilities are pretty straightforward. But the 2, there was stuff that doesn't apply, then does apply because it's the simulacrum. Then I had to go do like a disruption run to make sure that the disruption build was correct, and that took a couple 1-hour runs. But the builds work. I've done them. Even the sickening pulse build, I've done an hour survival with it, so it's at least functional. And it holds up, and it's not like a meme build, right? Or at least it's a meme that works, right? Like that's the minimum. If it's going to be a meme, it has to be a meme build that works. So the only other alternative, say for this, would be You could do something like this to help out with energy if you're really having issues with it. Would be something like that. Obviously, that would work. And then you could get Prime Continuity. If you like seeing Archon mods for whatever reason, this would also work. And Prime Flow, not a bad choice. Like, it's there. It's going to cost you one more capacity. And enemies that are killed by cold abilities have the chance to drop. And this frame kills enough enemies that you're going to get the energy orb anyway. Now, whether it's worth it considering the 3, it's up to you. But if you don't have Prime Flow and you can go get Archon Flow, slot that puppy in. Just keep it at rank 9. You're not going to notice the difference. But anyway, guys, thank you for being patient with the video. I hope this helps. This is the comfy build. Let me just scale this up real quick because I skipped a bit. And I immediately went to a warcry build. So let's go with this one real quick. Last one. Higher scaling, obviously, is good. And probably double range. And the Arcane's Energize is obviously a comfy one. You could also do the Strength one for just a generic build. It'll slowly increase the damage. It'll increase the strength of your dots. This would be like a comfy build. So, food for thought, guys. She doesn't really need efficiency. As long as you can get your health pull up. Or your energy pull. If you have a blue Archon shard, and you really want this to be your main, you can consider putting the energy one on here. Instead of like armor or health. Because she really needs the energy. But this would be a slightly nicer scaling. You get adaptation, vitality, your stealth most of the time anyway. But adaptation will give you more coverage. If you're going to do a longer run, Rolling Guard's the name of the game. So, there you go. Have a wonderful day, guys. I will try to have chapters up. Thank you. Take it easy.